Time at X minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
It's the Rocket Hour. Y'all are now tuned in. Time to hit the pick four that you'd love to win. If your money's coming slow, step on the faster track with your host, Ricky Pasternak. Let's go.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Rocket Hour. I have my Syracuse sweatshirt on. Aaron has his Oklahoma sweatshirt on. He has a game tonight, big game tonight that he's going to be watching. I had a big game last night at 5 o'clock when they were playing Clemson. You know, it's funny, Aaron, before we get into it, these 5 o'clock games seem to have a lot of implications. I think they're really rescheduled games that they're kind of forcing onto the schedule. But for us college basketball fans, it does give us a triple header, 5, 7, and 9. Helps us get our work done, things like that. You know, For you, step away from the wife a little longer. For me, step away from the parents a little bit longer. Just gives us an excuse to be by ourselves. But I'm not minding these triple headers.
No, it's been great. I totally agree. It's been great. Yeah. And OU, of course, you're talking about the game at 8 o'clock. But with the Blues, they're kind of on the West Coast. They're playing the West Coast teams right now, and it starts at 8:30, 9:30. That's great for me, too. And you're right. You've got about 3 or 4 races left at Sam Houston, so you just kind of watch the Sam Houston feed and you watch the hockey or the basketball. Yeah, big game for OU. You need to win tonight, no doubt. You know, beating Texas, and if they could sweep Texas, because they've already beat them once, if they could beat them here, it would kind of lessen that sting of getting swept by Oklahoma State. But listen, I want to talk about your boy Jim Boeheim. What timing! You talked about him on the live show the other day, and then last night he had some things to say.
Well, that's a great segue into our new segment. It's not new, but we're going to introduce a new partner, a new sponsor of the show. It's the Close Shave Rocket Launch, brought to you by Manscaped. If you guys aren't familiar with Manscaped, they've just partnered with us. What we're going to be doing during the Rocket Launch, we're going to kind of be going back and forth, kind of sponsoring. You know, they're going to sponsor us. We have some products that we're going to introduce one by one as the show goes on. Not today, but each show. Support for you for the Rocket Hour is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best men's below-the-waist grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. That's always nice to know. They obsess over their technology developments to provide you the best tools for your grooming experience. Manscaped is trusted by over 2 million men worldwide. We have an exclusive offer for all of you guys watching and listening. 20% off, free shipping with the code ROCKET20 at manscaped.com. And you guys can see the code. That'll be scrolling during our Rocket Launch segment, and we'll be doing that every day. It's a close shave rocket launch, which also will get to a close shave at the end. Aaron even texted me and said, what a race. It was race 8 at Gulfstream. That was a close shave. Getting back to Jim Boeheim, speaking of people who, I guess, lack hair.
Yeah, he doesn't need this product, right?
Yeah, he does not need to use Manscaped. And again, Manscaped is not for this head. We'll just leave it at that. Yeah, I'm not going to get into full details because I don't want to say anything disparaging over. Honestly, I'll call him a mentor. I got the chance to work with him for literally 4 years, 2014 through 2018 when I was at Syracuse. Yes, I'm only 24 years old, if you were trying to do the math. So I'll be very careful. Basically, someone that I know who works at The Athletic, if you're not familiar with The Athletic, you could look them up. They're a multi-media platform. They literally will break you down team by team, conference by conference, any sport, soccer, football, baseball, basketball, all over, and they're great. They probably give the most objective news, I'll be the first to say, across the country.
I agree. Yep.
They're very objective. Like they'll tell you what they think, and that's it. They're not going to get into opinions and things like that. It's a very, very good breakdown, and it's worth, I think it's like $4.99 a month. Some of the best money you'll ever spend. It's completely worth it, and you can customize it. So a buddy of mine who's, I believe, my age, maybe a year younger, I'm not entirely sure, he asked Jim Boeheim a question about 2 players, and if you guys want to dive into it more, you can, about 2 players and why they haven't been playing more, and Jim Boeheim took it a little personally. that was after Monday's game against North Carolina. And then Tuesday, Coach Boeheim texted, the guy from The Athletic. I'm not going to say names. And he was displeased with the question. Now, real quick, if someone texts you the next day about it, that means what you said was usually right. It's not on their mind if they think you're full of crap. That's just my personal opinion. I'm only 24. Aaron's nodding his head because he knows it's true. That meant it was still on his mind the next day, and he was probably right.
Right.
Wednesday's game, this guy from The Athletic, a buddy of mine, asked another question, but has nothing to do with these two players. It's actually two different players about the defensive scheme because they did a really nice job against Clemson, even though Clemson can't shoot. That's another, story for another time. Jim Boeheim goes on to say, it's interesting. I never thought I'd have to answer. I'm going to paraphrase. I didn't have to answer after 45 years of college basketball experience to a guy who's never played basketball before and is 5'2". And that kind of blew up. Aaron texted me about it. A lot of Syracuse people texted me about it. And I gave Aaron a little bit more details through our text conversation than I did just now because that's between us. And I know he won't release that. And again, Jim Boeheim is a mentor of mine. And I'm not going to say my personal feelings here because that's not what this is about. It goes to show you that coaches, I think, at any level and a roundabout way, take things very, very personally. Yeah. I think it has a lot. It's similar in horse racing. If Aaron and I talk about this all the time, just because we make a bet doesn't mean we are married to that horse. As soon as the race is over, unless it's a big cash that you're going to remember the rest of your life, we move on. And people who do that have an affinity for horses. They lose money over a long stretch. And not only do they get more and more frustrated because they eventually want to be the person after the 10th time they're right. But the first 9 they were wrong. Jim Boeheim, I think, was wrong. I'm not going to say what the guy from The Athletic said, but I think he was wrong. And if you want to dive into it, first of all, critiquing the man's height, completely irrelevant. Completely irrelevant.
Yeah.
Just because you have 45 years of basketball experience doesn't mean you can't be wrong. Now, if you gave us 10 situations, I would say he's probably right between at least 7 out of 9 of them, if not possibly 10 out of 10. But he was completely wrong here, and I felt like I was doing a disservice to the program by having to critique him when I think everyone's trying to get at the same point, which is ultimately make the tournament. That's what everyone. Yeah, so for Oklahoma, Aaron, you could smile, you could laugh. You're getting in. You don't have the stress. For Syracuse fans, we need each win, and this is not what they need. So yeah, that's kind of the Jim Boeheim story. So unfortunately, we don't have any true horse racing rocket launch topics, but I think it was something that was interesting to me. Aaron and I talked about it, and I had no joke between 7:30 and 8 o'clock. I had 10 people text me about it yesterday, and I gave Aaron a few more details than I did everyone else just because I know he won't release it. I'll throw it to you. What did you think of the initial situation? And I guess tell me where you first heard the comments. I heard it on Twitter. It was through the Syracuse basketball post game. So that was for me. Aaron, where did you first hear about it? Did someone reach out to you about it? Then you reached out to me. What were your thoughts? Does this change your opinion of Coach Boeheim, or does it maybe make you appreciate Lon Kruger a little bit more? What were your initial thoughts before you texted me?
No, I saw it on Twitter. Somebody had posted it, and I'll kind of relate it back to horse racing, kind of make the horse racing to coaching comparison a bit. I liken it somewhat to say a customer comes and he plays our sheet for one day and it doesn't do well, and then I get an email and it's you guys are terrible, you guys are awful. It would be easy for me to come back at him and go, well, you don't know what you're talking about and blah, blah, blah. It's best to just leave these kind of things alone. I don't think Boeheim's ever really learned that in 45 years of coaching, and at this point, he certainly isn't going to shy away from that kind of thing. So listen, I don't judge Boeheim really for it. I know how frustrating it can be, but the bottom line is the end result in basketball is the same as the end result in horse racing. Everybody can watch a horse race and see what happened. You either won or you lost. Everybody can watch a basketball game, and as long as they have some sort of knowledge, they can see, well, he should have made an adjustment here. He should have done this here. It's easy to see from the outside looking in, you don't know the other factors that went into the decisions that a head coach makes. I'm just as bad at it as anybody else. I criticize coaches, from time to time. It's because anybody watching can see, well, maybe they should have played man and they were in a zone, so I get it, but you're better just to ignore that kind of stuff in the long run.
Yeah, no, it's fair. And it's one of those things, you have professional athletes making burner accounts now because they have, the Twitter fingers, right? People, and I'm 24 and I've, I love you guys for listening and tuning in, but there are some people that aren't quite as nice as some of the comments you guys put on. And to Aaron's point, it's for Jim Boeheim, he doesn't have to deal with the customer service aspect. His customer service is winning and losing. For us, it's winning and losing, but we also understand that this is a business. So we don't want to turn anyone away. So even though we might want to respond to something in a way that's not appropriate.
Yeah, it's just never good because, I'll call him the kid because he's young. He's a kid to me. That kid's not going anywhere. He probably has a passion for Syracuse basketball, a passion for covering basketball. He's a young guy coming up trying to, I don't really think he's, asking questions to try to make a name for himself. He's just trying to do his job. And it's not a good look, especially in today's times. The Jim Boeheim era of coaches it's about over. That whole dictatorship and I know everything and nobody else knows anything, that kind of thing. He's one of the last ones left that can really kind of get away with that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a fair point. Let's put him in the older coaches. I think older is putting it nicely. The Roy Williams, the Coach K's, the Tom Izzos, Aaron went out for a minute, maybe on purpose. All those types of situations, they're a little bit different, right? So for Coach Boeheim, he's built a platform. He's built a responsibility that he doesn't owe this to Syracuse fans to act anyway. And as a fan of Syracuse basketball, for someone who worked on the program, I can appreciate his ability to be genuine. But when we break it down, you see, and I guess we could throw like a Lon Kruger. Lon Kruger is a lot more calm and things like that. But it's about the younger coaches. Nate Oates at Alabama, Mike White at Florida. The list goes on and on. Even Bill Self or Coach Calipari, not too much older. It's one of those. There he's back.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know. My internet decided to go out on me there for a second. Anyway, I'm back. Yeah.
No, yeah, I was just saying. Right now it's about the younger coaches. I said Nate Oates at Alabama, Mike White at Florida. Even Coach Calipari's not that old. He'll have plenty of years at Kentucky if he wants to stay. Or Bill Self, he'll have plenty of years at Kansas. Mike Boynton at Oklahoma State, who's done a fantastic job getting Kate Cunningham and things like that. So the older coaches, they will they're going to be out. It's one of those situations where we'll sum it up by saying, if someone else is doing their job, let them do their job. If you don't like the question, you don't like the response, answer it appropriately and move on.
Well, I'll say this: if the reporter's taking a personal shot at one of the players, that's different. Like if the reporter comes up and says, "Hey, why are you even playing so-and-so? He's terrible." Well, this is college basketball, right? I mean, you shouldn't be saying stuff like that. But if it's just a critique on the coach, and I went back and listened to the question, Ricky, it wasn't that big of a deal. So
yeah, he's doing his job. At the end of the day, if I ask Aaron, off air, right? What do you think of this horse? I don't think 6 furlongs is good enough. And he says, I don't know what the F you're talking about.
Yeah.
Well, I asked him a question. You know what I'm saying? Like, and we have different opinions. And for me, like, I love turf sprint. So if anyone asked me a turf sprint question, I'd have much more, I'd have a bigger ability, or I'd feel much more comfortable in my answer, as opposed to like a 2-turn dirt race, or, it's completely different. So yeah, it's just one of those things. We didn't really have a lot to talk about, but I thought that was pressing. It came to my attention. Aaron brought it to my attention. So that was the close shave rocket launch for today. We just didn't have too much. It was a Wednesday afternoon at Gulfstream. Tomorrow, I promise you, we will have a lot. And there's another close shave moment in race 8 at Gulfstream as we recap. It was probably Aaron's favorite race of the day yesterday. It was mine as well. Dennis, thank you for the sponsorship. Yes, it is our sponsor. We just started in March, and we are happy to be partnered with Manscaped. Let's get into some horse racing stuff.
Let's
We're
do
going
it.
to head to Oaklawn today, as you guys, there you go, with the entries. Unfortunately, we don't have the true scratches yet. If you want to check out some of the early scratches, you could do that at Nancy Holt, her Twitter account. Aaron will try to fill us in with some scratches throughout the day. He said around 10:30 his time, 11:30 at my time here on the East Coast. We'll scroll our tickets. We'll start with Aaron, though, and then he'll go back and forth. We always start with Aaron because he's one of the dudes, like I always say. This is maiden special weight for 3-year-old fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and upward, going 6 furlongs on the dirt. Aaron, we have a lot of horses that haven't run before, some decent trainers, some decent not so trainers, or maybe some experience that hasn't been so impressive. Were you leaning towards the first-time starter in this spot, or were you leaning towards experience in this spot? What did you think of the opening race? Oh, sorry, that's race 7. I'm thinking 7 through 10. I'm sorry, race 6. Completely scratched what I said. That's why the entry seemed weird. Aaron was looking at me funny. Sorry,
I was like, what the hell is he talking about?
That's race 7. That's the race I'm going to be breaking down. Here we go. That's race 6. It started with G. Okay. This is not your maiden special weight race. This is your claiming 10,000 race. I apologize for that. Starting with race 6 for fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and upward, going 6 furlongs on the dirt. Don't worry. We are going to get to that race, just not right now. This race, as we trans forward, this looks like a race that's probably going to be won by a heavy bet horse. Which heavy bet horse? I'm guessing Robertino Diodoro will have something to say about this. Which way did you go here in the opener?
Yeah, so it's funny. You have Gulfstream on the brain, I think, 24/7. You had that 7 through 10 on the brain. All right, we're at Oaklawn race 6, and you're right. This seems like it's almost too easy, right? It just seems like number 4, Pick Up the Phone, should dominate this race. She is just the standout on paper. Oh, by the way, Robertino Diodoro trains the horse, a guy who is on fire right now. Pick Up the Phone for me. I went $10 to win to start this off. Reason why I didn't go more, it's still a claimer, right? Like, we're not talking about an allowance horse or a stakes horse. And also coming off of a layoff, and this horse wasn't very good last couple of efforts. But, this ownership group, M&M Racing, they entered to win. Like, we talked about Safi dropping a horse, down after claiming it for a higher tag. By the way, that horse was terrible. We'll talk about that later. But we talked about that yesterday. When you see M&M Racing do this with Robertino Diodoro, it's not that big of a deal. They just like to win races. So this horse takes a big drop, but they just want to win. So I think number 4, Pick Up the Phone, is going to be the standout here. That's where my $10 win wager went. A horse that I also like, and this would be my second choice, would be the number 8, Awesome Indra. I think this horse is another dropping down in class, has some recency over the 4, a couple of races since the 4, we last saw the 4. And $20,000 claimer last time out over this racetrack was 15-1, only beaten a half length. Got up there real close to the winner, just couldn't get by. I think the 8 makes a lot of sense here as well. So my top 2 were the 4 and the 8.
Yeah, I think, I'll touch on the 4 real quick. Tactical Speed, Robertino Diodoro, M&M Racing, dropping down big time. Looks very, very obvious. I did include the 8, Awesome Indra, as well. But my thing for her, Scott Becker, I'm so-so, and Joe Rocco Jr. has 1 win as these PPs were downloaded. That's why this is interesting for me, and I'll throw it back to you. I also included the 11 against the Federico Villafranco horse. Jareth Loveberry has a win over this course, and that's just to kind of boast the 11 a little bit. But for me, if you're not going to single the 4, Pick Up the Phone, I think you have to include the 8 and 11. And this is why, because I'm not that high on the 8. I actually prefer the 11 to the 8 for the things that I just talked about. The 8 did beat the 11 last time out. It's interesting who gets the jump on who. I think the 4, Pick Up the Phone, could probably be anywhere mid-pack and should be good enough to win. But the 8 got the jump on the 11 last time out, and it made the difference. You could see in the running lines, the 8 was third and second, The 11 was fourth and gradually lost a little bit of ground. So that's going to be a game. And I don't think, if we're just looking at talent, I'm not sure there's really much of a difference between the 8 and 11. So for my sequence, if you're not going to play, if you're just going to single the 4, that's fine. You could go about it that way. But I think if you were to choose between 8 and 11, you'd be very, very worried to have to rely on the other one, just in case pick up the phone is no good. Some of these times, Aaron taught me this a long time ago. Sometimes a significant drop is significant for a reason. Like at 50,000 to 40,000, that makes a little sense. 50,000 to 10,000, now you might get into that danger zone, especially Robertino Diodoro. They might be like, I just want this horse off the books, and I want to do it in a clean way. Mm-hmm. For you, Aaron, did you consider the 11? And if you were to play it my way, would you be singling the 4, or would you play the 8 and 11 as well, like I did?
Yeah, I did not include the 11. My theory on that is I'll take the 8 because the 8 beat the 11, and then I'll kind of look elsewhere. I don't absolutely hate it though. If I was playing your way, I would go 4 deep here because I've got a horse I would feel pretty strongly about later on that we'll talk about. And again, it's the $10,000 claiming aspect. I don't like going short in these damn races because they're in this race for a reason. They aren't that freaking good. So a horse that I would include, and Dennis, good timing there. I looked down and I just saw you thought the 3 is interesting. I did too, Dennis. Abrax, the 3 horse, first time out for Aaron Shorter, and he's not great, but I like that Cabrera gets aboard here. That's a really good sign. This Cabrera's never rode for Shorter that I can remember, none in the last year. I thought it was a good sign. So I think the 3 is interesting here. Kind of another one that's kind of got a little bit of tactical speed, can sit 3-4 lengths off of it and pounce. The 5 was another one I like. Debut on the dirt last time out here at Oaklawn, 10K claiming level, and won pretty easily at a decent price of 7-1. Now moves up, not moves up, right back at that 10K level. I thought the 5 made a little bit of sense. That went over the track definitely, plays a little bit of a factor in these lower races. So the 3 and the 5 are the 2 other ones I would use with the 4 and 8 if I was playing the pick 4. But no, I did you consider the 3 or 5 at all, or you were pretty hell bent on that 11?
So the 3 for me, when we talk about claiming races, I really like to see horses have a little bit more form, and not form in terms of results, form in terms of I want to see them run off the layoff. Because for a horse like a Chad Brown Turf Mare, right, or a Brad Cox Knicks Go, like I don't care as much. The horses are talented. They know when they get on the track, it's time to go to work. These horses, it's like, I don't know. They have no idea. They haven't run since November 15th, new barn, and I'm not the biggest Aaron Shorter fan, but I do like the David Cabrera angle. I also looked at Summer Lovin', the 10, and I didn't use Summer Lovin', and Summer Lovin' beat the 10. Summer Lovin' beat the 3. I think Abramax or Abramax. I'm not sure.
That's a tough one.
Yeah, so I think for those reasons, I guess I would prefer the 3 to the 5. For me, French Charm. You talk about this all the time. To expect claiming horses to win 2 races in a row is a tough ask. Now, It's possible that the race, I never would have used this horse coming from Woodbine for anyone who listens.
Right.
But so that was maybe the time to get him at 7 and almost 8-1. Or this was Norman McKnight's only win of the meet. So you ask yourself, is she better than McKnight in terms of can she run with anyone at this level? Or did Norman McKnight get lucky and his barn's just not running well? Mm-hmm. That's the question you have to ask yourself. I also don't think she'll be able to get to the lead or the front end. So there are a lot of question marks with both. I do prefer the 3 to the 5. If this thing does break down, which I don't anticipate it will, the 3 probably is a better shot. So I didn't include them. The 5 hasn't run well, except the only race where she was able to be on the front end. And I just see a horse like pick up the phone, even if she's not as tactical. Maybe she's going to be quicker. You talk about it all the time. If you're just better than these horses, you're going to show more speed, even if you don't want to. You're just faster than them. Mm-hmm. And I think the 8 and the 11 are a little bit quicker. So this is an interesting race. It's a crappy race. We'll be the first to admit it. Let's move on to the next race here. Someone said a little bit worried about the layoff for the 4. Pick up the phone. Yeah, it's Diodoro, but I prefer Diodoro off the layoff than Aaron Shorter. Also, Diodoro's had her before, like a lot of times before. Mm-hmm. That's Tampa. All right, let's move on to the next race. This is my race, the maiden special weight race that I almost threw to Aaron. He's probably looking at me like I'm nuts. This race was interesting. You know, I kind of alluded to it before when I was one race ahead of Aaron. I said this is a race where are you looking at the first-time starters or are you looking at the horses with experience? Luckily for my sequence, I'm going to be doing both because I really don't know. I don't like – it's weird because one of these horses is going to take a massive step forward or we're going to see a first-time starter be in a good allowance race next time out. So we're not really sure. And this is open competition, mind you. This isn't Arkansas bred. These horses can go run at Lone Star. They can run at Fairgrounds. They can ship to Kentucky. You know, they can do anything, and they could be competitive. I don't have anyone that I love, but I'll put the 5, Joyful Cadence, on top. The reason I'll do that for a few reasons. One, the Run Happy purchase price. That has been one of the biggest talked about things in horse racing. Run Happy, if you watch TVG or Fox Sports 1, it's like Run Happy. You feel like Run Happy's running into your living room. That's all he talks about. Run Happy this, Run Happy that. This race, the Run Happy Travers Stakes, I don't know if that was whatever. The Run Happy this, the Run Happy that. Aaron's laughing because it's funny how many times you hear Run Happy. This horse, 10,000. Run Happy stands for 10,000, but this one went for 235,000. That perked my ears a little bit. Her only race at Turfway Park in January, she did lose to 2 next time winners in 20 Craft and Wait for Nairobi. So maybe that race comes back a little bit better. And in her debut, she was able to show a little bit of speed early on. She broke sharply. I think that's incredibly important. Even if they fade, just to break sharply, which meant whatever gate training they were doing worked. I don't care about the fade. The time was a little slow. The first quarter was a little slow. I expect her to be much better, and I think there's a logical step for progression. Aaron, before I get to maybe some other horses, I'll throw it to you. That's who I put on top because I think there's a lot of things that are pointing forward for this horse, and maybe she just gets better in her second start.
Yeah, that's one I used. I didn't really like the first-time starters. The 2 would be the one first-time starter I would definitely think about using. The 4 and the 6, not so much. I didn't really care for those. The 2, Fudge Brownie, maybe, but I kind of went against the first-timers, and I kind of went with that angle that you're kind of talking about of maybe somebody can just take a step up here. And there's a few that could. The 5 certainly is one, and I had the 5 included. 3, 5, 7, 9 trifecta box is what I did here. Just trying to take a shot and hoping something comes through. I thought the 7 Motown Girl, maybe with a dry track today, second off kind of a freshening. If this horse can kind of get back to a few of those races she was running at Churchill Downs, I thought she'd have a pretty good shot. Calhoun isn't great right now. He's kind of a little bit in a slump, I would call it, at Oaklawn. But he still is a good trainer. I think he can get this one to kind of get it turned around. So that was kind of my horse that I thought might turn around. Also the 9, again, this is a horse that caught kind of a wet track last time out, maybe now back on, what I'm assuming will be a fast track. There hasn't been any weather in Hot Springs here lately. So I thought the 9 is another one that could jump up and run a little bit better race. But this one's there for the taking. I mean, these first-time starters are very questionable. There's a lot of different ways you can go here.
Yeah. So, Aaron's stuff is scrolling at the bottom. So he talked about the 5 a little bit. I mixed in a few first-time starters. He kind of went away from that. I went with the 2, 4, 5, 7. the Union Rags angle for the 4 on my own, I think makes sense. That's one he didn't use. It's weird because for me, as I look through these, some of these horses have been bad. Like for me, I'm not using a horse like the 9 Via Regia, maybe we'll go with that, until she drops down in class. That has career maiden written all over her for me. I actually wrote that down. CM. I said that yesterday. If you have CM, you're career maiden unless you drop in for a tag. Then we can have a different conversation. Like one of the things this is what I talked about. I want someone to come out, not us, because we have a lot of stuff to do, but someone who has a lot of time on their hands. I want someone to rank horse racing, like all the classes. Like we could start with the grade 1 Pegasus. That could be the best race, or Breeders' Cup Classic, all the way down to the last maiden claiming race at, I don't know, Turf Paradise, the lowest of the low. I don't know. No offense to Turf Paradise. And because the reason I say this and the reason I bring that up, and it would be cool, we would have like 200 or 300 rankings, and it would be subjective. But I think that would be cool if someone would ever be able to put that together. The maiden special weight here at Oaklawn. What did you say?
It's just real quick. I've done that in the past. It's been a long time ago. I have no idea where I could locate it. It's probably written on paper, but I did do that at one point in my life.
You know what? Maybe we could do that one day. Like the highest of the high and the lowest of the low. And like the Breeders' Cup Classic would be the number 1. We don't have to rank every grade, we don't have to rank like every graded stakes race, but like grade 1, grade 2. The reason I bring that up is because Via Regia comes to Oaklawn and runs for an $82,000 purse. Mm-hmm. Indiana Grand is $31,000. The races aren't that much different. It's the purses, right? And that's what I'm ultimately getting at. Someone could say, well, she stepped up in class. No, she didn't step up in class. It's like maybe they're a little bit better here. And that could be a competition thing. You'd have to look into that and look at the field.
Yeah.
In Indiana, it's not as good. But I'm thinking like sometimes, like for example, like a horse at Monmouth, the purses aren't as good as they're going to be at Belmont. And I've seen a lot of horses come to Belmont and run well, and people say, how did that make sense? The purses weren't as good. That's just because Monmouth doesn't have as much money to offer. So,
yeah. What we is my dad and I, we did it when we were supposed to be selling athletic apparel, but instead we were in the back doing this. We put Major League, AAA, AA, Single A. We compared it to baseball.
That could work. Something similar.
I have it somewhere. Maybe I'll try to find that.
Right, and that's what I'm getting at with the 9. Yeah. Like let's not say because there's a $51,000 purse difference that this race is going to be so much better. Or if in fact she's running for $86,000 now versus $82 means anything. No, the smaller tracks don't have as much money to offer in their purses. Yeah. So for me, the 9 is a throwout just because I think she's going to be a career maiden. I'm interested in the 4. That's the one that I circled a little bit. But the 7 was interesting. I think you used the 7 Motown Girl. You could say to Ricky, that's probably a career maiden as well. The difference here is I really liked the freshening, and she showed a little bit more speed out of the gate. The difference with the 9, I think David Cohen will be a little bit more aggressive. I'm not going to take too short prices, personally. That's just me, because the 7 or the 9, they're both going to be short. So I prefer the 7, and I threw in a few first-time starters. One of them, to be honest, Aaron said the same thing. I don't think a first-time starter has to run anyone off their feet to beat this field. If they're halfway decent, that might be good enough. And you're going to get prices. I used a 6-1 morning line and a 6-1 morning line. Aaron went a little bit with the shorter prices. He kind of knows what he's getting. Personally, I don't know if knowing what you're getting is going to be good enough because this race is very interesting. Let's move on to the 8th race. This is Aaron's spot. This is a nice allowance optional claiming field, 62,500, going 6 furlongs for 3-year-old fillies. Real quick, do we have any updates on scratches? Have we?
Yeah, so scratches, they all are also eligibles, basically. So you don't have to worry about any of your horses getting scratched out of here. It looks like the 12 and the 13 are out of the 6th. And I just exited out. Hold on, let me pull this up one more time. So the 6th race lost the 13, and the 9th race lost the 12 and the 13. So no real changes for what we're doing here.
So that's perfect. So we don't have to change anything. Aaron, I'll throw it to you. They're on paper, they look like they're 2 fillies. They're much above the rest. Were you able to choose between the two? That's Southern Grace and Ava's Grace, the 2 and the 6.
Yeah, it's a battle of the Graces here, and I'm on Southern Grace, the 2 horse. I just think she is going to be the best here. And once again, a theme you're probably going to hear at Oaklawn a lot, off that muddy track back to a fast track. I think that is just going to be a real key today for Southern Grace. I love this horse's maiden win at Churchill Downs. I didn't hate the race last time out at Oaklawn, even though she lost. She was in a pretty darn good field. And now she steps up into a field that I don't think was quite as good as what she faced last time out, was only beaten a length and a half. I really like Southern Grace. You look at the pace setup of this one, it seems like the 6 and the 7 are going to go. And I think the 2 can kind of just sit that perfect stocking trip. So $20 to win on the 2 for me. I really like Southern Grace here. The 6, Ava's Grace, was my second choice. It's kind of a situation of what are we going to get, right? Because this horse ran 3rd in the Adirondack last time out. That was on August 12th at Saratoga, of course. 200 days off. First time out as a 3-year-old. I don't know. I don't know what we're going to get. I think it's going to be interesting to see how she runs. I'm going to go with the known, and the known is Southern Grace ran pretty well here at Oaklawn last time out and should have every right to improve off that effort.
Yeah, I think I forgot, maybe Aaron could do a little background research. Abrogate ran, I believe, in a stakes race or maybe an allowance optional claiming. Didn't run that well, but Abrogate, I think, stepped into a waters deeper than this. So I don't remember the race. So I'm sorry off the top of my head.
Yeah, it was the Dixie Belle is what she ran in last time out. And I believe that was last weekend, and got 3rd, only beaten 2 lengths. The race wasn't, great, but it's still a step up. So a stakes race, 3rd, beaten 2. And I believe, yes, that horse was the favorite in that race.
Right. Yeah. So I remember it was one of those stakes races, it was a shorter one. Obviously, you're much more on top of all the stakes action there. So I think losing to Abrogate isn't that big of a deal. I had to go back, to be honest, and see and rewatch the Adirondack because we haven't seen Ava's Grace in a long time. And she started off well, but that field is too good for her. Thoughtfully and make mischief are better fillies. So I think to run at 19-1 and only finish 3rd by 6 was a decent race. The problem is the time form rating, which Aaron and I look at a lot. It was just not nearly as strong as Southern Grace. So that's who I used. I used the 2 and 6. Was there any horses? I'll talk about one, and then maybe you could talk on another. Let's get to Dennis's question. What the F do we do with the maker runner here? That's a great question. I'm not really sure why she's here. My best guess is that if she runs well here, and maybe Aaron could touch on this point, maybe there's a stakes race that she would be entered in, maybe a 3-year-old fillies. Now, the Dixie Belle is a 3-year-old, is a filly race. I'm not sure if there's something, again, I don't know off the top of my head. Maybe she's heading out west. Maybe she's going from Presque Isle and this is a stopping point, and then maybe she's going out west. I don't know, because Mike Maker doesn't bring a ton of horses here, but he's doing well. He's a New York, Florida guy. So this is interesting. The Presque Isle races, I'll be honest, they're not that great. And the race she comes out of, I hadn't even, Aaron does all the tracks. I don't do them all. The Presque Isle Debutante Stakes, I'll be the first one to admit, I had never heard of it. So I had to look into that, see what type of field was there. There are a lot of question marks with her. Artificial to a true dirt surface. I'm not sure. What did you make of the 4, the Mike Maker coming from Presque Isle? And are there any other fillies that maybe we should consider that we haven't touched on yet?
Yeah, honestly, I watch Prescott all the time. One of my favorite ones to watch. I've been there a couple times actually. It's on the way to my wife's family's house. Well, sort of. You drive by it. You drive by like a million things when you drive 1,000 miles across the country. But anyway, we have stopped a couple times, watched a race or two. Yeah, this horse was very interesting to me. This is the type of horse I like to kind of use in tournaments because it's kind of like what I would call the oddball. It's like, why is that horse here? That's weird. So you just try to take a shot, hope to get a prize. I have a hard time playing this horse on the tote board, though, because I don't like to put my money on a horse that's just like, that's weird. Like, this is a weird filly in this spot. But I do think the horse has a little bit of ability. I remember the Prescal Debutante pretty well. I thought the winner of that race was a pretty nice horse. This horse was only 4 lengths behind when they hit the wire there. I don't know. I'm with you. I think you answered it honestly and probably about as accurate as you could. I don't really know what this horse is going to do. It's kind of a wait and see approach to me. They got to have something in mind. And Dennis, you kind of made a good point. If the horse wasn't any good, he'd be a turfway. She'd be a turfway right now. So it's not a bad point because, same surface there at turfway. So yeah, we'll see. I couldn't get there with the 4 though. I couldn't convince myself.
Were there any other fillies that maybe we should talk about?
I thought Ikati's hit was kind of interesting. I think C.R. Trout, very good trainer. Last time out, this horse was 4th, beaten 6th, but again, over a muddy surface. C.R. Trout breeds and owns and trains all of his horses. So he's usually very logical where he spots them. So if he didn't like this filly, he might just kind of back off. I'm not saying he'd throw her in a claiming race because it's an Oklahoma bred and there's a lot of lucrative Oklahoma races that this horse will be able to win in the coming months at Will Rogers and then again at Remington Park. But he would just back off. He would give her a little rest and kind of start pointing to that. For him to throw Ikati's hit right back in here kind of makes me feel like this horse might run decent at a big price.
We just talked about we're talking fillies here for 3-year-old fillies. We know there's a stakes race 3-year-old fillies coming up this weekend. That is the Honeybee. But let me throw this to you. Is it possible that if the 4, the Mike Maker horse, maybe runs in the Purple Martin, maybe in April? Is that maybe that's a possibility for Maker? Who knows? I think we don't really know. Exotic, yeah. The Wayne Catalano trainee. This is an interesting field. This is almost a stakes race in a way. Some of these horses have stakes experience. This is interesting. I'm going through it here. The 1, the 3, the 4, and the 6 have stakes experience as 4 out of 7. Let's move on to the final race, the 10th race. That is waiver claiming for 16,000. This is one of the bigger fields on the day. I'll start waiver claiming 16,000 for 4-year-olds and upward, going 6 furlongs on the dirt. We have Aaron said there was a scratch. Aaron, what did you say the scratch was in this race? Off the 12
and the 13. So there's nothing.
Ballandine is I guess the scratch, and okay, so that will affect me a little bit.
Okay, yeah, you had the okay, yeah.
So I'll talk about a couple horses and then I'll go through it real quick and see if there's maybe another one I'll include. My top horse was Rare Form for Robertino Diodoro. Robertino Diodoro, like I talked about this angle all the time. We talk about trainers that that maybe they're not that good, but if they keep them at the same level, they're kind of trustworthy. They don't have to really do anything. Robertino Diodoro is one of the better trainers in the country, especially here at Oaklawn, and he doesn't have to do anything with this horse again. The problem for him in this spot with Rare Form, we haven't seen him since November 19th. Will he be able to replicate that race? I would hope so. I would hope the freshening makes some sense. Who knows, though? That's my top horse, and I'm pretty confident. I was shocked to see 9-2 on the morning line. The horse that was the morning line favorite was the 12, Ballandine. That's probably because of the drop down in class from allowance optional claiming races or tougher claiming races. The problem for that horse, though, we hadn't seen him since August 25th, of last year. So I put Rare Form on top. I think I'm going to stick with these three, so I'll adjust my ticket. Aaron, I'll throw it to you now. I talked about Rare Form. What did you want to do with this race? I don't know if you included the 12 on your original ticket or not.
Yeah, no, I didn't. I stayed away from Ballandine today, although I've lost money on that horse in the past. Not going to lie there. I'll run. First of all, $10 to win on the 7 is where I went. And once again, Robertino Diodoro. This horse was claimed from Dale Romans last time out, and this horse won. And now it's in the Diodoro barn. You're going to tell me you don't think this is a horse that's going to show significant improvement today? I'll be shocked if the 7 does not show improvement in this spot. So $10 to win on the 7 was my play here. I just think first time Diodoro out of the Romans barn. And here's the deal. That statement isn't even really a knock on Romans, like a lot of people will take it. That statement is, I know Romans probably, well, there's no probably. He's not doing anything suspicious with his horses. You can tell by how they run. We know Diodoro is. So first time for Diodoro, it's going to be a big factor. Diodoro's claimed some horses off my buddy at Oaklawn. And they'll run 10 lengths better all of a sudden. And it's like, oh, okay. So anyway, the 7 to me, I think, is going to run a very good race today. Thomas Feeney, the comment, what do you think about the 6? Loves to run at Oaklawn. Yep, the 6 is actually going to be my second choice. Pat Daddy, won last time out at Fairgrounds at a very similar level. Gets to Jason Barkley for the first time today, and Barkley does a pretty good job. He's kind of a sneaky claiming trainer there at Oaklawn. So I think the 6, if you're looking for a price, he's 8-1 morning line. I think the 6 has got a good shot to pull an upset here. He was my second choice. So yeah, for me, 7-6 were my top 2.
Yeah, it's interesting for me. I didn't include the 6, and maybe I'm looking into it, but this is the reason why. Why was that horse scheduled for the turf last time out?
Yeah,
that is a massive, massive red flag. I hate horses. I unless it was a spot that kind of, I want to be very careful the way I say this. If they don't think their horse can run and they're desperate, why do you try the turf when this horse has run 48 out of 59 times on the dirt? So this is a dirt horse. They're willing to throw him on the turf. The Oaklawn thing is nice because it never finished outside the top 3. And at 8-1, Jason Barkley makes a lot of sense. I just didn't. I wish that little X symbol with the circle, which means the race was taken off, just wasn't there. I wish someone had omitted it. I don't know. 5-2 morning line on a fast track. It's not. If it was a muddy track, maybe that'd be a little different. You could see an improvement. I don't know. Good productive horse though. Almost. We'll probably get to the $300,000 mark earnings wise, which is always a productive horse. We didn't talk. There are a few we didn't talk about. I like the 11 a little bit. Clear the Mind. Obviously, we're all in on the 7, and Aaron kind of maybe gave us why Robertino Diodoro should get him to improve. The interesting thing though, for Rare Form is going to be cutting back in distance. He only ran at this distance once and wasn't all that great. Is he a true miler? Does he want to go longer? That's why I didn't single. The other point, Robertino Diodoro didn't get him to jump up at all. He kind of just kept him here. So there's 2 schools of thought. Either A, I want to see how he does as a 6-year-old, or B, maybe I couldn't get him to improve and he belongs at this level. I don't know the answer to those questions. I'm assuming Aaron doesn't either. We don't know. So I don't think singling makes a lot of sense. The 11 Clear the Mind is going to be tactical. He has run in Oaklawn. The only race he ran at Oaklawn on January 22nd was a nice one, kind of going away at almost 4-1. You're the biggest Federico Villafranco fan there probably is under the Racing Dudes umbrella. You like him a lot. Ramon Vasquez is a good rider as well. The other one was the 2 Gigging. I don't know what the heck to make of this horse, right? Gigging has some races that are better than this group, but he hasn't run since July 28th. Granted, there were allowance optional claiming races. The interesting thing to me, though, here at Oaklawn, he's had success. So, to talk about the 6, Pat Daddy, if he just likes running here. I don't really know. I thought that was an interesting horse. Real quick, before we get into some recaps, were there any other horses you wanted to talk about?
Not really. I was just all over the 7 and thought this is pretty straightforward. And Dennis made a comment he can't trust the 7. Take out the last race. What about the race 2 back? Finished 3rd, beaten 3, $32,000 claimer, pretty good speed figure going this distance. I mean, I trust him. I just think the 7, with the new trainer, it's going to be pretty interesting to see how he runs. Let's put it that way.
I have a quick question for you. I'm looking at the Equibase PP. That's what I use. I'll be the first to admit it. A lot of people make fun of me for it, but I like it. It says reported gelding. Usually that's after the race. This says reported gelding on November 1st and ran on November 1st, but the reported gelding comes before the race. So I really hope Rare Form wasn't gelded in the morning and ran in the afternoon. That would be a little painful. I guess that goes back to our Manscaped rocket launch close shave. So
just so people realize what's going on with that, the reported gelding is when the say the past performances come out, right? That's when they report the gelding. First time gelding, the past performance is out, the information is laid out there, and then that's when they list the date. That's not actually the day the horse got gelded. The horse has to have at least 3 weeks off after he gets gelded. So just always remember that, because that, I'll have people text me all the time. It's like, they gelded this horse 2 days ago and now he's running. It's like, no, that's not how it happened.
Yeah, that's just the reporting time. Folks, think about it like this. You get a massive surgery or whatever, and you're going to be running the same day. Doesn't make a lot of sense. So yeah, I just thought that was a little funny. It kind of plays into our new partner, Manscaped. Let's put our tickets together here. Dennis has a quick question. How hard does the 3 press? I mean, for me, the 3 is just not good enough. And I'll be honest, I'm kind of fading Carl Broberg at this point. I'm not a fan of his barn at the moment. That can change. What about for you? Are you concerned the 3 can maybe go gate to wire?
Yeah, I think the 3 is definitely the other speed in the race, and that is going to be a little scary. I like that the 7 is drawn outside the 3. So, maybe Cohen can kind of sit off if the 3 really starts to run, a crazy race out there. So being drawn outside the other speed is a nice factor. So, yeah, Dennis, I mean, any horse race you analyze, there's going to be worries, there's going to be concerns, but overall, you just have to say, okay, is the 7 the best horse? Yeah, on paper, it looks like it. Does the 7 get a trainer that's probably going to move the horse up? Yeah, it looks like it. So, I wasn't overly concerned about anything after that.
Yeah, and the 3 hasn't been seen in a long time, and I don't know if the races were quite as strong either. Aaron, start with your stuff here. What were you thinking? Kind of lay us out the sequence starting in race 6.
Yeah, I had a lot of win bets today after having none yesterday. So $10 to win on the 4 to kick it off. The horse just looks like a standout on paper. Race 7, 3579 trifecta box, 50 cents. And then $20 to win on the 2 in race 8. Obviously, it'd be my strongest opinion on the card. And then race 9, $10 to win on the 7. $52 investment today. And I just felt like the race is set up well for win bets compared to yesterday, where it looked like, didn't have a lot of strong opinions as far as who's going to win.
Yeah, for me, that's a good point. For me, race 6, I think the 4 pick up the phone is the horse to beat. But if you want to go a little bit deeper, if you're not going to single there, the 8 and 11 are probably the same talent-wise and need to be used accordingly. So I went 4, 8, 11. In the first race. The next race was the classic. Aaron went with all the experience. I went with a combination. Keep an eye on some of the first-time starters. Aaron and I both kind of said it won't take much to beat some of the runners with experience. And if they're just horrible, then I have a few of those mixed in as well. So I went 2, 4, 5, 7 there. The allowance optional claiming race in race 8, almost a stakes field. Again, 4 of the 7 runners have stakes experience. I think you'd be hard pressed to beat the 2 Southern Grace or the 6 Avis Grace. Again, Aaron kind of said the battle of the Graces. Interesting note there. Brad Cox versus Robertino Diodoro. Who do you like? I think Pete Aiello would say, who do you like here as they kind of hit there to the top of the stretch? Who do I like? I like the 2, but I think it's really, really close. And in the 9th race, the final race, I'm interested to see what Gigging does, coming back to claiming races, has done well at Oaklawn in the past. The 7 rare form, there are question marks. It's Robertino Diodoro will get the horse by the factor of going to be making his Oaklawn debut at this level. So we'll see. Again, Robertino Diodoro wasn't able to get him to improve at all, kind of keeping him here. And the 11, Clear the Mind. Look for this horse to be on the front end, and I think he has enough tactical speed to try to make it 2 in a row here at Oaklawn and stay undefeated. So that is my ticket. It's only a $36 ticket. I did use the 12. A little light for me. I try to be in the $40 to $55 to $60 range. I like to be a little bit more expensive, especially at Oaklawn, because we don't really see too many short prices. So I'll be a little bit longer. But today I didn't find it. Aaron said a lot of win bets. It's similar to me, right? I didn't go deep in a lot. I only used 4 horses once. And I think the 2 and 6 are going to get home. If the 2 and 6 don't get home in the 8th race, it'll be interesting because I think you could find a few prices there. Let's get to some recaps real quick yesterday. Aaron was all over it. Unfortunately, if he was playing the pick 4 sequence, he would have done well. Unfortunately, that was me, and I did do well. We walked this horse, I think, into the winner Dundalk. Just gate to wire, was strong, and you could see the running lines. 1.5, 1, half, just dug in. Someone said, isn't the 2 scratched in race 7? Is the 2 scratched in race 7?
That was not on her tweet. I'm looking it up, though, on Equibase here. Let's see.
So if that's the case, then, I'm looking now also. Then I'll have to revise.
She did not tweet that out, but Jay Will, you're right. The 2 horse on Equibase is listed as a scratch. Fudge Brownie, the first-time starter for Mac Robertson, now out of the 7th race.
They're killing me today. Yeah, I'll have to adjust that. So, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to do that by the time we're doing this. We're doing recaps, so I apologize for that. The difference with Oaklawn, it's a little tough when we do the show. Dundalk, gate to wire, you called it, kind of dug in, was reserved, had enough in the tank to get the job done going gate to wire.
Yeah, I mean, this just on paper, it set up like a horse that was going to do this. It looked like on paper Lone Speed, and held on. Unfortunately, I had the 8 in the 2nd spot, and the 8, gets beat by the 5, a horse that I don't remember. I don't think we really talked about, considered, or anything. Just one of those things. But anyway, yeah, the 2 gate to wire, and I mean, it goes on and on, right? This Gulfstream Park, turf course, speed is just so valuable right now.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Speed at Gulfstream is impossible. We said yesterday, if the horse is worse than 15 to 1, then maybe you could leave off 15 to 20 to 1 or shorter. You got to include. We like the 8 second mate. Okay. Second mate was okay. Yeah. I like the 3 Honey Won't. Honey Won't was horrible. Won't be using that horse. I like the comment, saved ground. Saved ground's a good comment when the horse runs well. I don't want to see saved ground when you finish second to last. And then it says to no avail. Yeah, saved ground to no avail. You know what that's like? That's like taking a test. You get the first 10 questions right, the next 40 questions in a 50-question test, you get 30 of them wrong. So you go 20 for 50, that's 40%. Well, it's good you got the first 10 right, but you got a 40 on the test. That's what the 3 Honey Won't did. Kind of saved ground and didn't make anything of it. Still got a 40%. Let's get to our close shave recap brought to you by Manscaped. Again, you guys can, go to manscaped.com, check them out. Use the code Rocket20, free shipping. We always like free shipping, and plenty of great products there. Jason says if he didn't sleep around, he would have been dead last. You're right. He probably would have been. Honey Won't was horrible, absolutely horrible. That got a laugh out of us. It's a little gloomy here in New York, but that got me laughing. You were. I don't want to talk about this race because I didn't get this one right. I was close on Excalibur, but we both had the 4. One Eye Jack is the horse to keep an eye on. One Eye Jack should have been running. Who was the horse that ran with one eye? Was it not Quip? What was the name of the horse that
Finnick Fierce had one eye, and then
Fierce. Finnick the Fierce, but someone else.
Yeah, it was a Pletcher horse, Patch.
Yeah. Well, maybe One Eye Jack was running with an eye patch because he had one eye and he sucked. 8-5, absolutely horrible. What did you think of Alejandro's team in this race? You had to take a short price, but that's okay. You got the job done anyway.
It's so funny because you used the 4 and the 6, and I used the 1 and the 4, but neither of us. Well, you didn't use the 1 in your pick 4, and then I didn't use the 6 in the exacta. So stupid. But anyway, the 1-6 exacta paid well, and I didn't have it. But the 1, I definitely thought the 1 was the upsetter here. Turned out to be right. Your 6 ran really well too. Top of the stretch, I thought the 6 was going to win easy. I feel like Junior just like played rope-a-dope with them a little bit. It's like, the 1 looks done, and then all of a sudden the 1 re-rallies. So, good performance by the 1 and the 6. For the 4 sucked. There's no way around it. Set a perfect trip. No excuse for the 4. Should have won.
Yeah, and the 1, One Eye Jack was there. You could tell on the running lines, 2x2, 2x2. They weren't going that fast, to be honest. 1/16 on the dirt, almost 23 seconds, and then the quarter was the half was almost 47 flat, 46 and 4. I mean, there's really no excuse. It's not like they went to a 22 and 1 and then like a 46 and 1. Like could have gotten the job done. I think that for me the biggest takeaway. Irad Ortiz is a must play. When you think Excalibur is not good enough, well, Irad Ortiz gets him to finish second. It was a well beaten second, in all fairness, but got the job done for Junior Alvarado, and Aaron remains his number 1 fan. Let's move on to race 9. This one was, as Pete Aiello says, who do you like? Because we had no idea who we liked at one point. We were all over this race. This was the race that I said to look at some prices, but it kind of seemed like all the top choices were able to get the job done. I used all these horses. I didn't cash, unfortunately. What did you think of Valletta? It was tough because you were all over the 5 She Throws Heat, who was slightly better odds. But these 3 kind of did battle. Even What Does a Shark Say had a little bit of ground as well, who I really, really liked at a price. But it seemed like the top 3 choices were kind of much better than the rest.
Yeah, this one's frustrating because if the 6 can beat the 9 here, I hit the try and it would have been pretty good. Listen, another sickening thing for me because I bet the 5 to win in the race as well, and then gets beat, by a head bob basically. But look, I felt like we did a really good job handicapping this one. We were all over these horses, and just didn't quite come in. Well, you were out by this point, so I guess it didn't matter. But it didn't quite come in with the try. How lucky enough to get there. But this was a really good race, going 1.5 miles. It was very entertaining, and it just came down to the head bob, and then the 9 was right there too. Junior Alvarado almost wins again, but. Good race. I would bet a few of these back. I thought they ran well.
Yeah, that's fair. It's tough. You say you want to bet them back. Do we want to bet them back at 12 furlongs? Because I don't know how many times we're going to get a chance to run at 12 furlongs. And that's why I wanted to take the majority. I knew this. For me, when you're going to do well in a sequence, it's right with the first race. And by the 3rd race, I was like, I knew I just didn't have this because I used a bunch of horses and the favorite ended up winning. That was the type of afternoon it was. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And that's one of the most frustrating things for me when you go deep and the favorite wins and you're like, all right, I used all these bullets for no reason.
To your point real quick, I felt like that's what happened on Fountain of Youth Day. You had some races where you thought, okay, the favorite, maybe I use it, but I think we can beat it. And that what you thought on paper that weakish favorite would win every damn time, which, hey, you're still alive, but then you went skinny in other races, and then that's the favorite that would lose. I felt like that kept happening over and over on Fountain of Youth Day.
Yeah, that's why I think, people, there's so many times, real quick for me, like I'll put, in my consensus, my product, I'll put the top 4 and say I use all 4. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, depending on the race. I want to see sometimes that 4th horse win, because that meant I saw it was a wide open race. If that top horse wins, yeah, it's nice. I did get the job done, but the chances are it's going to be a shorter price, which meant I didn't have to go 4 deep. Sometimes I almost want to see if I use 5 or 6, that little column not have a green label at all, because that meant I really needed to go deep. So sometimes that's always interesting. And again, I do top 4 consensus. It's different the way you put a product together.
Take Antoinette, for example, in the very one, right? We all went deep, and then the favorite wins. That's really frustrating. Even then I think I would call it similar. Got Stormy. I don't know that Got Stormy was like a slam dunk. Now she was different from Antoinette, but still, it's like, yeah, I think we can beat her first out, going a little longer than what she was successful at. She wins, And at the same time, they're favorites that are winning that you can't go a single or even too deep on. So yeah, that's when a card, from how you look at it, gets really frustrating.
Yeah, I think Zafel was in the very one, I believe, also, right? And that was the horse that a lot of people were talking about. But, I was kind of higher on Got Stormy than others, so I didn't go as deep as I think Mike Somich went a lot deeper. I think he might have even thrown Got Stormy out. And he probably wasn't the only one. A lot of people were trying to beat her. Let's go to the last race here. This was race 10 on the card. And this was your horse again. What's Inside? Well, What's Inside was a winner for Aaron, not for me. I didn't have What's Inside. I had Dugout. I used the 1. I wasn't really close. So this is all about you. What did you make of What's Inside, who stormed home late? And the comment says off slow and turned up. Yeah, you could see it at the 3/16, 8.5. 8, excuse me, way back there. Made up a lot of ground. What did you think of What's Inside?
Well, first of all, what happened to the 4? The 4 was just awful in this race. And then how about the 6, Earth? We both were like, yeah, that's cheap speed. That'll fade. Almost wired this field. I mean, that was really something. What's Inside, yeah, gets up the final jump. Pretty good closing move there for the 8. I thought the 8 did well to catch Earth. And then, Dugout didn't run horrible. Just, Earth outlasted Dugout. And I don't think we saw that one coming. And that kind of, Earth at 37-1 screwed up any kind of exotic for my purposes that you wanted to play there. But I was really surprised with the performance by Earth. And listen, I thought What's Inside ran a very solid race here.
Yeah, no, that's fair. You got What's Inside. If Aaron had played the way I played, or we combined maybe our choices, we would have gotten a decent pick 4 ticket home. And we'll scroll down here. The pick 4 was pretty good. Got $214, almost $215 for 50 cents. No one would complain about that. Unfortunately, we weren't able to combine. We weren't able to combine selections. But
what's really frustrating, and I'm sorry, I cannot remember who pointed it out on Twitter off the top of my head. But I recognize the name. Watches the show a lot. If you took the horses I boxed, it was 2 by 2 by 4 by 4. So a $32 ticket, and you played them in a pick 4 instead of race by race, it hits it. Yeah. So not a huge payout, but also not a huge ticket. So it would have worked out. Maybe somebody did that. I don't know. Hopefully. Yeah,
no, $32 for a $215 or almost $215 return. I'll do the math real quick here. Hey, 6.7. So for every dollar you spend, you would have returned $6.70. It's not bad. Hopefully someone out there said Aaron can't hit a try box for his life, but maybe I'll use his horses for a pick 4. Who knows? Or faded what I said and maybe made some money. Who knows?
The funny thing is, before I came on, this is true. People are going to think I'm making this up. This is true. It was the first time that I can remember where I didn't have a win bet. And I almost said, I think I'm going to play a pick 4 today on the show, just because I just don't have that. Because if you notice over the time you've been watching these, I like to have that horse that anchors everything. It's like, well, as long as this horse wins, we're going to be in good shape. And when I don't have that, I get a little uncomfortable. I literally thought about playing that. So, oh well.
Yeah, no, that's the way Aaron likes to do it, and the way he's explained it before. If I get my win bet home, that pretty much at least makes me even, or close to it, or maybe slightly above. Within $5 or $10. So that means that it was a halfway decent day. If you break even at the track, I think everyone would take it. That's the way horse racing goes. So that's why he likes to do it. But yeah, he didn't have any yesterday, so that gave an indication of how wide open the race is.
Yeah.
Our tickets are scrolling at the bottom before we sign off. Aaron, just want to wish you luck tonight in the Red River Showdown, but this is not on the gridiron. This is going to be on the court. Matt Coleman will lead the Texas Longhorns, and I don't even know who's going to lead. Austin Reeves. I'm sure Austin Reeves will lead. He's their best player, but they have a lot. Brady Manick and Harmon and Harkless. They have a lot of nice, talented players, and even their big guy Queth can make some things happen. Center. Probably their 5th or 6th best player. Both talented teams. The Big 12 is literally what I like to call a gut show. And what I mean by that is it's bring your own guts every night. It's tough. It's physical. The one team that is not as physical as they normally have been is West Virginia. That's a team that you never want to play. And they're not as physical this year. So that's a little interesting. But yeah, it should be a great game tonight. ESPN or college basketball, if you're listening, these triple headers are fantastic. I'm sure they won't continue after COVID ends, but we've been enjoying it. For everyone else, thank you guys for tuning in. Check out manscaped.com. And if you're interested, use the code ROCKET20, free shipping, all their great products. Make sure you guys look into that. We will see you guys tomorrow. We will be heading back to Gulfstream. We'll be heading to Florida. We won't be dealing with these scratches and changes issues, at last minute. And it's just as tough on us as it is on you guys. So we try to do the best we can. Good luck today, everyone. Stay safe, stay healthy. If you're playing Oaklawn Park, let us know. If you're playing Gulfstream Park, let us know. Check out racingdudes.com. My article's up, ready to go. It's going to be a big weekend. We will have plenty of stakes action tomorrow. And maybe if Oklahoma wins, we'll give a few minutes to Aaron to tell us what to expect moving forward for the Sooners. If they lose, maybe we'll just kind of bypass it. We'll see. Real quick, the St. Louis Blues won also last night, 3-2. I can't watch Blues games. They're really, really boring, but they win. Picking up points is important. So I know Aaron had a good night last night. Hopefully he has a good night tonight as well. Take care, everyone, and we will see you guys tomorrow, 11 a.m. Get your past performances ready for Gulfstream